Yes, there she comes. Yeah. Dear candidate, please take your ease. Yeah, wonderful to have you with us. So I can now open the session. Hereby, I open this academic ceremony in which Minyi Hu will defend the academic thesis, Real Estate Revisited, How People Shape the Future of Workspace. May I invite you to present the summary of your study and the conclusions of your thesis. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. And let me share my screen. Can everyone see my screen here?
Yes.
Okay, like this.
Yeah.
Good morning, well-esteemed committee members, my colleagues, my friends, and I guess it's my honor today to stand in front of you for my doctoral defense. My name is Minyi Hu. For the past few years, I've been in Maastricht University trying to investigate how people shape the performance of commercial real estate. And my main interest and focus is more about tenant retention, sustainability, and also the health attributes. And I really appreciate this opportunity to show you the key insights from my dissertation. And this dissertation title is Real Estate Revisited, How People Shape the Future of Work. Oh, my mic is open, okay. How People Shape the Future of Workspace. And this dissertation is supervised by Professor Niels Koch and co-supervised by Dr. Huang Francis. Let me start the intro with the powerful idea. The buildings are for people, from the philosophy to practice. As Edward Glaser said in his book, Triumph of the City, the cities are the absence of physical space between people and companies. They enable collaboration and learning, largely by bringing people together in dense urban environments, mostly inside the buildings. And among all the property inside the city, one of the most important is the office property. That is because people spend around 30% of their waking hours inside the office, according to the data by the US Census of Bureaus. And so the quality of the indoor environment can shape the experience of the people who reside in the property. But currently in the United States, around 50% of the property, commercial property, was built before 1980s, so their indoor environmental quality is quite outdated. But even for those newly constructed or newly renovated office buildings, 30% of them fail to ensure the comfort of the people reside in it. And in academia, much of the attention to the ESG role of the commercial property mainly focus on the environmental part, such as their energy efficiency, their low carbon emission, but not much attention was paid to the social part, how the property can take care of the well-being and the health of the people inside it. But recently, after the outbreak of the COVID 2019, there are growing attention to the health and well-being in the modern offices. For example, there are a recent report by Financial Times, with the title of the report is How a People First Approach is Changing the Office Life. And there are also a lot of industrial reports by like CBRE, Starwis, those biggest property management company. They also try to emphasize the importance of investing in the employee well-being in the office markets. So now we talk a lot about the healthy building, but what defines a human-centered office building? How to translate the human well-being demand into the building design and the management features? According to the medical literatures and also the building science engineering literature, for the building to have a good indoor environmental quality, they should have some good acoustic isolation, they should have sufficient daylight, they should have good air quality, and etc. And these components will significantly influence the employee productivity, the physical health and the mental health, and also the job satisfaction of the employee inside the property. Another question is, how do people know whether the property they are inside in is healthy or not? So there are two health certificate institutes in the United States, which is WELL and FitWell. They will do some on-site testing for the property about their indoor environmental quality. If the property can meet with certain criteria, then this property can be awarded and have a certificate of a WELL or FitWell. And here are two examples of how a healthy building, healthy office supposed to look like. And this example is the city global headquarters in New York. And we can see usually healthy office, they will have a very big lobby. They will encourage their employee to have more time to face and the flexibility and also do some collaboration. And this kind of building will also apply a lot of glasses, windows, and also walls. So there will be sufficient daylight can go in through the building so the employee can enjoy more natural sunlight. Before I start to dive into the details of my research, let me give you some key takeaways of my dissertation. My key idea of a dissertation is the tenant perception and the health attributes will shape the performance of commercial real estate. And I will try to prove this idea from three aspects. The first is tenant aspect, who is the leasing decision maker. The second one is from the employee aspect, who is the user of the workspace. And the third one, I will try to prove from the investor aspect, who is the capital market regulator. And for my chapter 2, my research proves that the higher tenant satisfaction will be associated with the improved leasing outcomes. And for my chapter 3, my research proves the healthy offices are more resilient in terms of their employee return visits, especially after the post-COVID return. And the chapter 4 proves the investor also will pricing the premiums in terms of the rents, the sales price, and also the capitalization rate of the healthy building. Okay, now we go into the details of my dissertation research. So from the philosophy roots, we already know the building is supposed to be for people, but actually in current commercial property management, not much property manager try to incorporate this strategy to care about how people feel, how people think about the property. One of the reasons is they are not sure whether this kind of investment strategy is going to be financially viable. And the current valuation method in the commercial real estate is mainly rely on some tangible characteristics, such as the size, the quality, the location, the age of the property, but they overlook one of the most valuable intangible assets of the property, that is how the tenant feel and experience inside the property. So in this chapter, I try to investigate the role of the tenant satisfaction, whether they will influence their own leasing decision and also eventually to the financial performance of the property. And we also control for those unchangeable characteristics of the property, such as their location, their building characteristics, as also the tenant cost. And our research rely on the following a few data sets. The first one is the Kingsley Company Tenant Survey data, which is meant from 2009 to 2023. So this company was trying to ask the leasing decision maker of the tenant company whether they will release their leasing contract after the contract expires, and how do they feel when they reside in this property. And this data set consists of around 56,000 companies, and we have around 124,000 observations, and it's coming from around 3,000 buildings. And other data set is the CoStar, which is one of the biggest commercial real estate data set in the United States. We can extract the building characteristics, the financial data from this database. We also get the green building certificate data from the USGBC, and also Google Maps, Orbis, PitchBook, and etc. about the tenant status, whether they move out and whether they are broke, and etc. And this is our main finding. We can see from the time trend, for those buildings with higher satisfaction, which is a dark line, they have a higher rent and also a lower vacancy rate, and they are also very resilient after the outbreak of the COVID. And the empirical results tells us that the company level satisfaction is related to the company level willingness to renew, the company level willingness to recommend its property, and also the lower probability of moving out of the property when the lease expired. And the building level satisfaction is associated with the higher growth in the rents and also the lower growth in the vacancy rate. And our mediation model illustrates that if the property incorporates some sustainability attributes or the better property management company, then they can improve the tenant satisfaction and also improve the tenant retention. Okay, now we already proved for the company leasing decision maker level, their experience and their viewpoint is important. But actually, the company leasing decision maker's point of view is the aggregation and also lag behind. It takes a very long term for the experience of the actual user, the employees, the experience to reflect it in their decision. So in this chapter, I try to investigate whether investing in those people-oriented attributes will also reflect it in the preference and behavior of the user of the company, which is the employee of the office building. And another research background is the flight to quality trend of the commercial real estate in United States. They usually only emphasize those general traditional characteristics such as the building quality, the building age, but they overlook the implication of the changing employee demand. And COVID outbreak gives us the natural experiment to research on the behavior of the employee. That is because before the outbreak of the COVID, everyone is mandatory to go into the office. But after the reopening, the employee have the flexibility of staying home or going to the office. So we can investigate their preference of their working space, whether to going to the office or staying home. So here, our empirical design is we're trying to control for the location and also the building characteristics of the office building and also the tenant industry, and trying to see whether the different health attributes of the building gonna lead to different employee visitation, and then eventually to the different operating performance of the property. And for this research, we rely on a few data sets. The first one is also the most important one is the Habitat building level cell phone visitation data for around 500 office buildings. And other data set is the healthy building certificate data and also the CoStar, the CompStat tenant characteristics and leasing contract data. And we also extract the building level operating performance data from the NACRE. And this is our empirical results. And we can see in our main results, after we add the different fixed effects and also different control variables, the conclusion is very robust. There is, after the reopening, the healthy buildings will experience a stronger rebound in the employee visitation. And this effect is more significant for the WELL certificate than the FitWell certificate, because this certificate is more advanced in the health attributes and they are more focused on the employee well-being. And this prime performance in the employee visitation consequently will be translated into a higher operating rental income of the property. And this prime performance cannot be attributed to the tenant industry dynamic composition. Okay, now we already proved from the user's side that invest in the people-oriented attributes will be doable. But whether the buyer side, which is the investor, gonna be paid for a premium for this kind of investment and attributes. And another research background is there is a higher demand for healthy buildings, but there are limited supply because of the uncertainty of the investment return. And the table here shows us the adoption rate of the health attributes in United States or the 30 biggest office market. We can see even for the top rate for the adoption city, the adoption rate is only around 3%, and most of the city didn't adopt any health certificate yet. So in this study, we try to investigate whether investing in these health attributes will be economically doable. So our empirical design is similar to the chapter 2 and 3, and the difference is our explain the variable is the lease performance and also the sales performance of the healthy building. And for this research, we rely on a few data sets, which is also similar to the previous chapters. The healthy building certificate data from around the 900 different office buildings, and also the building characteristics, the leasing transaction data, and also the green building certificate data. And here are our empirical results. We can see for the WELL certificates, after they adopt the health attributes, they will have a significant rise in their leasing rents. And also, after they adopt this certificate, they will also have a premium in their sales price. And the comparison between the WELL and Fit WELL certificate, we can see the WELL is significantly bigger in their magnitude. That is because WELL is more a capital input effect, but the Fit WELL is more just a label effect. And this magnitude will be bigger in cities with a lower property price and after the COVID outbreak.
Okay.
And here is my concluding remarks. My conclusion is people-oriented investment will shape the performance of the commercial real estate. From the tenant perspective, I prove satisfaction will signal the leasing quality and also the occupancy stability. And from the employee perspective, I prove the health features will enhance the workspace engagement and also resilience. And from the investor perspective, I prove the market will value the internalize the tenant perception and also the workplace quality. And my dissertation have a few different implications. The first one is my dissertation proves how the value is perceived and created for the commercial property, from employee resilience to the tenant decision, and then to the investor recognition. The second implication is the office is increasingly evolving from a mere place for work into a dynamic ecosystem and the social infrastructure that will foster trust, productivity, flexibility, and also urban vitality. And as cities worldwide in the post-COVID era to grapple with the challenges of public health, sustainability, and post-pandemic recovery, the value in the post-pandemic office market will be increasingly determined by the intangible and the experience factors.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This is my presentation, and looking forward to your comments and your questions.
Yep. Thank you once again for your presentation. I'm happy to give the floor to Professor Eichholz because he will open the opposition. Professor Dr. Piet Eichholz is the chair of the assessment committee, and he's a professor of real estate finance at this university. The floor goes to Professor Eichholz.
Thank you, Mr. Pro-Rector. Dear candidate, dear Minyi, let me start by giving you compliments for a really very interesting thesis. It's got 3 solid empirical chapters that will be published in high quality journals, I have no doubt. And what I really like about this is that this thesis brings back the healthy building research to finance and investments. And that is very important because after all, we are a finance group, but our exploration into healthy buildings has been a bit eclectic in that regard, and you bring it all back. So that is very well done. Now, of course, there's always room for improvement, and there's always also room for questions. And I've got a couple of questions. I will ask just one for now, which is a combination of chapter 3 and chapter 4. In chapter 3, you show that after COVID, workers in healthy buildings are more likely to come back to the office. So employers like that. But in chapter 4, you show that employers have to pay higher rents for these buildings. Now, my question to you is, if I'm an employer and I have to make that trade-off between higher rents and more, hopefully a more productive staff because they're all more back in the office, should I do that? In other words, as an employer, should I rent healthy buildings to get my people back? Is it worth the money in terms of a higher rent?
Dear well-esteemed Professor Piet Eichholz, thank you very much for your question. And my answer to your question is yes. Because even though for the healthy buildings, they usually claim higher rents or higher sales price, but actually the increase in their rents compared with the cost of the labor of any companies is really minimum. Because for any company, especially those companies can afford to rent a prime office building, usually for them, the labor cost may be taking around 60–70%, even higher for their cost. And also there are some medical literature already proof, like there is a leverage effect in the indoor environmental quality improve to the productivity improve. For example, the 10% improve in the indoor environmental quality can lead to like 30-40% improve in the productivity of the employee. So compared with the cost of the labor, this is a very good deal to taking for the employers. Yes, I think that's mainly my answer.
And then maybe as one follow-up question, and so if the productivity increase is so high, then if I'm an employer, I can say, okay, then I need far less staff. Because my staff is so much more productive, I can fire 10-20% of my staff, and that means I need less office space. So maybe is it even possible to do that without even more cost in office space? What do you think about that?
First, I think layoff, maybe this is not the problem of real estate, it's more a problem of the company management. First, I think for the layoff procedure for any company is going to be very, very sensitive given the politics and etc. issue. But if a company, they only make a very small improvement in their working environment and their renting expenses, but there will maybe lead to a very big productivity improvement for the healthy development of this company. And another phenomenon currently happening is for after the outbreak of the COVID 2019, actually more employees, they might choose to working from home or flexible working. So the company may not need so much working space anymore. So actually their expenses on the office may be actually shrinking a little bit. So they can use the same expenses, but to rent a better place, but a smaller place, then they can both improve the productivity of the company, but also to keep their employee structure stable to avoid any political issues.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
The opposition will be continued by Dr. Avis Devine. She was also a member of the assessment committee, and she's an associate professor of real estate at Harvard University. The floor goes to Dr. Devine.
Dear candidate, dear Minyi, congratulations on some wonderful research on a very topical area of interest. Especially in this post-COVID world, we need to think very carefully about preparing our space for future pandemic issues, as well as just helping improve the ability of humans to thrive indoors. So this is a wonderful space for additional future work, especially as we merge this within the greater conversation about investing into the real estate space. I had a question first, generally, just about your whether or not we should be investing in these buildings with certifications in particular. Within your research, you highlight that there is a similar difference for both Fitwel and Well between the cost of registration and the cost of certification. In both cases, the cost of certification is substantial, ranging from a few thousand to many $1,000s. Yet the cost of registration is negligible, less than $1,000 for both buildings. Yet you also show evidence that tenants are willing to pay for this registration effect, not just the certification effect. And my question is, why is it then that tenants are willing to pay higher rents for this costless signal of registration only? And if they are in fact willing to pay for the costless signal, what happens if the signal never follows through, if they never complete the registration and turn it into a full certification? Do we observe that the tenants would then penalize the building owners for not making that follow through all the way to certification? And how does that impact our decisions to invest?
Dear well esteemed Dr. Avis Devine, very happy to receive this great question. And yes, in the conclusion, our sample shows the registered building also can show a higher rents premium. There is because for these certificates, they are still in the early adoption phase. For example, for WELL and FitWell, they only launched in 2016, 2017. So most of the sample is falling between 2017 to 2023. There is only around 6 years. So in this short period, only those pioneers of the commercial property will choose to adopt this kind of certificate. So maybe their own reputation and etc. already signal to the market. Eventually, they will fulfill their commitment to make the health attributes investment achieved. And another reason is real estate is different from the other like listed companies and etc. Because listed company, the only way you can get to know their ESG performance, their commitment is from some third-party report. But for the commercial real estate, usually before they actually leasing the space, they will do some on-site viewing and etc. So they will already know a lot of inside information of the property. They will experience this. And during our sample, there are a lot of well-certified buildings. Even though they haven't certified yet, but they already trying to release some promotion in the market to trying to recruit some tenants. And during this period, many of these well-certified buildings also experience some renovation. So this is also the pricing of the actual capital input instead of just the pricing for the labor itself.
So do you expect then, if this is the way that the market has established itself thus far, if the work to improve the building's health is happening at the time of registration, do you expect to see less commitment in the future financially towards certification, since the tenants or the landlords are willing to pay just for the registration sticker?
I think maybe maybe I cannot predict in the long run whether the market will be distorted a little bit. But for my research in my results, I try to separate the effect from the WELL and also the effect for the FitWell. That is because what the WELL certificate is very different from the FitWell. The WELL is a really high criteria. It's very difficult to meet. For many buildings, you really need to make some capital input to obtain these certificates. But for FitWell, it's more just getting some scores for the current characteristics, such as the location, whether it's good, whether the age is young enough, and etc. So for the FitWell, it's more a label, and for the WELL, it's more a capital input. But our result shows capital input can have a premiums, but for FitWell, the label cannot have a premiums. So I think the market can distinguish between the label effect or just like a vague commitment.
Okay.
Very nice. Thank you.
The opposition will be continued by Dr. Dong Xiao Niu, who was the third member of the assessment committee and who is an assistant professor in real estate finance at the University of Cambridge. The floor goes to Dr. Niu.
Dear candidate, dear Minyi, first I also want to congratulate you on completing such a wonderful dissertation. So from green buildings to healthy buildings, and also from end users like tenants to investors, I think you really did a great job in creating a very nice framework to discuss about people's role in shaping these real estate patterns. And that's also what I like a lot about your dissertation, which is your framework. I think your framework really outlines the logic from different chapters, tenant satisfaction, healthy buildings, and finally about the investment, about the pricing. And that's also where my question arises. So my question to you is this order of the 3 chapters, this sequence, more intentional? And do you think there's a time lag actually between these short-term behavioral responses of tenants to the final investment decision by the investors? And will this time lag kind of affect how we should interpret your findings?
Dear well-esteemed Dr. Dong Xiaoniu, thank you very much for your question. I think this question, if I understand it correctly, should be the my conclusion whether it will hold for the short term and the long term, and whether this conclusion will hold given there is a lag between the employee response and also the tenant decision making. And now my conclusion already proves the investor and also employee and also the decision maker, they are willing to pay premiums and also accept the people-oriented attributes, even though there are some lags. Like on average, in my chapter 3, I already proved even though the employee already shows some preference in the workspace they visiting after the COVID, and the operating performance also start to show some divergence after 2 years or maximum 3 years. The employee shows some divergence in their visitation. There is because there are some leasing there is on hold, so the tenants may be still mandatory to stay in the building, but after the leasing expire, maybe there will be some reshuffle in the buildings the tenant is gonna locate. And in the short run, this phenomenon maybe still have some volatility of which kind of building gonna perform better is traditional or healthy building. But in the long term, the flight to quality phenomenon will still hold. There is because even before the outbreak of the COVID, actually the focus on the ESG part of the commercial real estate, people already pay attention to the environmental part, the social part, etc. But the COVID just accelerated this trend. So it's like an ongoing trend, but just COVID make people show their preference more significant and obviously.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. The opposition will be continued by Dr. Eran Zhao, who is the last member of the assessment committee and who is an associate professor of finance at this university. The floor goes to Dr. Zhao.
Thank you, Mr. Prorector. Dear candidates, dear Minyi, first I would like to join my colleagues in congratulating you on this very well-written thesis. I think it's a combination of 3 very interesting chapters with well-executed empirical research. So I also learned a lot about real estate finance from reading your thesis. Very well done. My question is regarding chapter 2, and especially the connection between your conceptual framework and the empirical results in chapter 2. So you also showed in your presentation, as well as in the thesis in figure 2.4 on page 30, this conceptual framework illustrates that I think you're trying to show that this tenant satisfaction is mediating the effect of building characteristics on building financial outcomes. But then if we look at your empirical methodology and your empirical results, it seems that you're trying to show that tenant satisfaction adds additional explanatory power for tenant choices and building financial outcomes after controlling for a lot of building characteristics and other variables. So that makes me a bit puzzled. Are you trying to show that this tenant satisfaction is a mediator, or is it capturing something that's not captured by other control variables? And could you please also discuss what you think about this and what are the academic and practical implications for the role of tenant satisfaction? Thank you.
Dear well-esteemed Dr. Eran Zhao, thank you very much for your question. And for my empirical setting in my chapter 2, my control variable is those unchangeable part of the property, such as the location and their age and their size and etc. So the difference in the tenant satisfaction between similar property is coming from those parts can be changed from the property manager and the investor, such as different property management company and different indoor environmental quality and etc. And my research conclusion is trying to prove the satisfaction variance coming from this changeable part of the property is gonna influence their leasing decision and eventually leading to the different financial performance.
But
I don't know
a quick follow-up. So if this is the case, all these other, let's say, building management, all these variable things, apart from building characteristics are fixed, but these are variable, you said, but then these are also observable. Then why do we need to know the role of tenant satisfaction? Because then you can just directly test the effect of observables on tenant choice and building financial outcome. And it seems that even after controlling for these observables, all these other variable things, these tenant satisfaction still add additional explanatory power. Why do you think that is the case?
Dear esteemed Dr. Pei Ranzhao, thank you for the follow-up question. There is because even though we can observe maybe the performance of a different property management company and like maybe different indoor room rental quality, but actually what is inside the property that is happening actually is still like a black box. So if we can observe what is the transmission tail of this value chain, then maybe it's better for the management of the property manager. And another reason is even for the same property management company, according to our data, actually the tenants and also the property under their management also have a lot of variation in their satisfaction, in their experience, and etc. So knowing this information is not only important for the investor trying to attribute the reason for the good or bad property performance and etc. But we can also try to distinguish the reason for whether it's a good performance or a bad performance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Professor Dr. Franz Fürst will continue the opposition. Professor Fürst is a professor of real estate and urban economics at the University of Cambridge. The floor goes to Professor Fürst.
Thank you, Chair. And congratulations, Minyi, for tackling such an innovative topic. It takes, I think, a lot of courage and initiative to get into something that is not easily measured. In finance and economics, we tend to stick to things that are very easy to measure. This one is definitely not, as I know from firsthand experience. So congratulations also on the breadth of the coverage that you're showing in your dissertation, in your thesis. So very impressive. My question is about the title, which I was intrigued to read. Real Estate Revisited: How People Shape the Future of the Workspace. There is this famous quote from Winston Churchill that says, "We shape our buildings and thereafter they shape us." So you could have just as well said it the other way around, how the workspace shapes people in the sense that it's healthy or not healthy. But you chose that phrasing, and I think it was with careful consideration that you chose it. You could have also said how the workplace or the future of the workplace is shaped with people in mind, but still shaped by kind of the usual suspects, the investors, the architects, and so forth. But that's also not what you chose. You chose why people. So it suggests that actually the workspace is kind of the future of the workspace is shaped by kind of almost like a grassroots movement, that people get a say in how their workspace is shaped. Could you relate that, and assuming it was a conscious choice, how that plays out in that scenario, especially with the certifications? Do people, I assume that means users, actually do have a say directly?
The well-esteemed Professor Franz Fürst, very thank you for your excellent question. Yes, my title is How People Shape the Performance of Commercial Real Estate. I think maybe in the very long term, the two components of the thesis, people and the building, actually they do influence each other. But for the empirical research in my dissertation, like for the short run, 5 years, 10 years, I think the influence of people on the influence from the people to the property performance may be more significant, because the people can move places. It's because it's office building. It's not like some rental house and etc. So they can like voting by feet to choose the property they would like. And then actually the influence from the property on the people is limited in my sample. But the different customer, different tenants, different employee, their preference for the property may influence the viewpoint, the overall perception of the market on the property. So they will influence the pricing of the property. So yes, maybe giving the example, the sample in my research is office property. It's not like two binded together objects. So the direction is from the people influencing the performance of the property. I don't know whether I answer this question well.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. The proposition will be continued by Dr. Thomas Post, who is an associate professor of finance at this university. The floor goes to Dr. Post.
Yes, dear candidate, dear Minyi. Now, your thesis was a wonderful read because it brought up a lot of memories to in a very nice book. I will not go that far as to citing Churchill, but this is Tom Wolfe's 1981 book From Bauhaus to Our House, which is a hilarious book, but also furious statement against the modern, cold, rectangular, concrete architecture that actually shapes people. So the idea that buildings shape people is not new, but what I like about your thesis a lot is that you put this idea to the data. So it sounds so intuitive, but we need proof, we need evidence, and this is what your thesis actually delivers. Now, my question is about chapter 2. In the abstract, you state we document that a 1-point increase in tenant satisfaction on a Likert scale from 1 to 5 is associated with something, something, something. Okay? Now, this I found interesting. When I looked at the data, I saw in one of the tables that the average score on this 1 to 5 scale of tenant satisfaction is 4.3. Which made me wonder, wow, this is high, and we can actually not increase this by 1 unit because the scale ends at 5. But I think the more deeper question, the more underlying question that I have to you is, how does it come that US tenants are so incredibly happy and satisfied? So if you run customer satisfaction surveys for other projects, consumer goods, this is something which would be fantastic, but it's not happening. So what's so special about US tenants? Why are they so happy and satisfied?
Dear well-esteemed Dr. Thomas Post, very thankful for your great question. Yes, talking about the chapter 2, the average satisfaction score of the sample is very high. One of the most important reasons is for the companies and also the property can fall within our research sample are those rich property investors or from those rich property management. So there are some selection buyers in the market already. So the majority of our buildings, usually they are high quality buildings. So usually they also have a higher satisfaction. They also reside in a higher quality property. But even inside, within these high quality properties, we still improve satisfaction can lead to better leasing decisions and also the better financial performance of the property. So if we try to compare with the whole market, if there are more like low quality property enter our sample, maybe the magnitude of the coefficient will even be bigger. And another answer to the high average satisfaction score is that we also do a robustness test because maybe a lot of the sample already have a high satisfaction score, but still there are some property with a very low satisfaction score. And we prove that the marginal effect of improving satisfaction will be bigger for those groups with a lower satisfaction score than the high satisfaction score group. And even though maybe for those groups already have a very high satisfaction, it's very difficult for them to improve anymore. But their effort in maintaining their satisfaction score compared with those who didn't, then is still an improvement and also some advantage. So putting effort in maintaining high score or obtaining high score will be rewarded by the market and by the tenants. That's my conclusion from the dissertation.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. The opposition will be continued by Professor Dr. Dirk Brouwen, who is Professor of Housing and Household Finance at this university. Floor goes to Professor Brouwen.
Thank you, Mr. Prorector. Dear Minyi, the opponent. So I have very much enjoyed reading your dissertation. I also enjoyed the last 45 minutes of discussion. I think it's very interesting. I can also follow up quite easily on what Professor Fürst had to say and Dr. Post just before me, because I had very similar thoughts when I was reading your dissertation, which was excellently written. So I also would like to first give you my compliments, because indeed it's very timely. But what I'd also like to add is I think it's very coherent. So I think you did a very good job in covering a novel topic in a very deep way. So I really enjoyed learning a lot from your dissertation. But like Dr. Post, I also was a bit shocked when I read chapter 2. So that is also personal, I guess. I don't get shocked really easily as a person, but then reading a 4.3 average on a 5-point Likert scale, obviously as a teacher we get evaluations. 4.3 would be a really good day, I think, right? And we all work hard for that. But also it made me wonder what is going on here. So your chapter 2 is quite transparent and clear on that. And you also say, well, we actually survey 860 people. And I was wondering, who are these people then? And then you say, well, these are facility and office managers filling out the survey on behalf of the company. And these are also the people that are involved in the lease renewal decisions. So then I was wondering, okay, what does this then really mean? Going back to Professor Fürst's remark on your title. So are these the people that we have in the title, or is this a separate group of people? So to make it very concrete and maybe also interesting for Professor Fürst, I would like to explain that that person at SBE, the School of Business and Economics in Maastricht, is called Richard Taal. Not to confuse with Richard Taylor, the Nobel Prize winner. But Richard Taal would be the one who fills out the survey on our behalf. I do wonder, however, whether he actually captures my, let's say, satisfaction with the building. It's his satisfaction with the building that we are actually reading in chapter 2. So I wonder whether you could elaborate a little bit on what does this imply for your conclusions? So it's him filling out a survey on his satisfaction on the building and also his likelihood of maybe renewing the lease. So what does that mean for the generalizability of your results? And also, could you maybe in future research deepen, let's say, maybe some of the backgrounds of these people that are actually responding to the survey?
Dear well-esteemed Professor Dirk Brouwen, thank you very much for your question. It's a very good question. Yes, for my chapter 2, those people filling out the survey, they are the leasing decision maker of the company, and the leasing decision maker of the company and also the facility management of the manager of the company. Usually, they are also belong to the company themselves. So maybe they are not attending the office as much as their employees does, but they also need to attending the office and maybe also do some employee survey and etc. Try to investigate their point of view about the offices that they are residing in. And another, sorry.
Yeah, so I can help you on that. So I also noticed this, but I was wondering, so for instance, in my room, which actually Piet Eichels is now sitting in our room, I should say then maybe, it has single glazing, for instance. So that's not very 2025. But I now wonder what Richard Taylor has to say about this, because he's filling out the survey. So could that noise that is being introduced in the survey setup, that is not your mistake, or it's nothing you can do, but what does it imply to the outcomes of your analysis?
Sorry, Professor Dr. Dirk Brouwen, can you repeat the follow-up a little bit?
So very concrete, my main concern with chapter 2 and the results is that the one who is filling in the scores, I wonder whether he's a true reflection of what, let's say, the people in your title have to say. And I guess Pete and I are using the office, but Richard Taylor is filling in the survey. So how certain are we, let's say, that what he fills out is consistent with what we experience? Because I think from the title of your dissertation, we assume it's really about not just Richard Taylor, let's say, opinion.
Oh, yes, thank you very much for the addition details about the question, Professor Dr. Dirk Bronen. Actually, in the survey, besides the satisfaction and also the leasing intention of the decision maker of the tenant company, they also ask a series of detailed questions about the quality of the property and etc. Even though we take the most important question out of the questionnaire, there is the satisfaction and renewal intention, but actually they ask all the detailed factors of the property, how they feel about it, such as about the building quality, about the air conditioning, about the air quality, about the elevator, and etc. It's for the decision maker, the leasing decision maker, they have the intention, they have the motivation to tell the truth to the property management company and the investor. So maybe their urgent need, their demand will be fulfilled and satisfied by the investor. And the only way they can try to convey this information to the investor is they need to go into the office to feel the environment of the office themselves. And from the survey data, we can observe for different buildings, the feelings from the decision maker about different aspects of the property has a very big variance. Even within the same property also have a very big variance. That means maybe they actually really attend those office buildings. And another supporting point maybe is from the survey company when we communicate about how they collect the data. When they doing the survey, sometimes they will visit the company, or they will visit the property themselves, and to like give them some notification, they're gonna do some survey and etc. So it's also some proof that the decision maker actually they will experience the property themselves. Maybe later the survey company, the consultancy company will send them an email and etc. Please fill the survey. But before that, the process of collecting this kind of survey will make sure the decision maker they can experience the property environment themselves, and they are from the tenant company. They are the decision maker, and they have the motivation to report the truth of what they need and how they feel. I hope my answer can satisfy your question. Thank you.
It does. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This concludes the first round, implying that we'll go for a second round, and it's a custom at this university that the floor then first goes to those who come from further away. So I give the floor again to Dr. Divine.
I actually yield. I have no additional questions. I think candidate has done a wonderful job of addressing all the questions of the group.
Okay, in that case, I'm back again to the initial first person who got the floor, and that's Professor Eichholz.
Thank you very much, dear Pro-Rector. Yes, I do have a second question, and it is about going back to the office. And the question, is that at all a good idea? And so couldn't we say that the fact that people stay at home more after COVID is actually good for productivity because they don't have to commute that far, and that going to the office is actually, let's say, the requirement of going to the office is actually more an issue of having low trust from employers to employees rather than having low productivity. Maybe the current setup is a new equilibrium that we have found, which is actually boosting productivity. So this whole idea of employers wanting their employee back to the office is actually bad. So in that sense, do we even need healthy buildings? Do we need to think more about healthy homes? So the question is, can you reflect a bit more broadly about this issue of coming back to the office? Should we aim for it? Or should we just say, no, we have found a new equilibrium and that is actually good for society and productivity?
Dear well-esteemed Professor Peter Eichholz, thank you very much for your follow-up question. And this question is more about whether, especially after the post-COVID, so many people getting used to working from home, whether it's still necessary to have a healthy office or even office. And from the urban economic perspective, from the agglomeration perspective, is yes. because creativity and also like productivity is coming from like a face-to-face and also like a communication, collaboration, and etc. So eventually there will still be work need to be done face-to-face. So there is demand for offices. And another point is in the future, because there are some presumably have a semi-permanent or some permanent shift in the people's working habit. Maybe some of them will choose to permanently working from home. Some of them will choose to hybrid. Some of them will choose like a fully on-site and etc. But there will be some shrinking in the office. So only those office can do the job of the office, do the role of the office the best, can survive. Like as I illustrate in the previous answers, because the company now, they have the same budget, but they have less employees came back to the office. And according to many survey by the biggest property management company, the biggest institutional investor about the future leasing plan for the decision maker, most of them, higher than 50% of the decision maker, they said in the future they will choose to upgrade their office workspace, but they might choose to rent a place, allow more flexibility, allow more meeting room, and etc. So there will be a change in the tenant preferences, but the office will always be the center for productivity and the center for creativity, and the flight to quality will still pertain in the long run. There is because only those office property do the best role in the keeping this productivity and creativity can survive in the long run. I hope my answer is good for this question. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good answer.
Thank you. I'm moving on for the opposition to Dr. Niu. If you would still have a short question given the time available, the floor is yours.
All right, I do have a short question to Minyi. So Minyi, in your last chapter, you talk about the healthy building premium, right, from a pricing and valuation perspective. But if we think about the green building premium, actually, most of the pioneers and advocates might be the professors now sitting in our room. So I was wondering, do you think there would be a disagreement in the healthy building premium? And if there's a disagreement, even among like tenants, their preference to healthy buildings or disagreement among the valuation of the investors, do you think how we as researchers or practitioners should think about it? I mean, the main effect, the average effect is there, but there's always a disagreement. So how should we tackle with this problem? Thanks.
Dear well-esteemed Dr. Dong Xiaoniu, thank you very much for your follow-up question. Yes, there are some, maybe this can refer to my heterogeneity analysis for the chapter 4. The premium does have some variation between different cities, different markets, and even between like a different building age and etc. And also the market participants, they hold different viewpoints about the premiums of their health certificate. Some people may still choose the traditional office, and some like pioneers of the companies, like those tech companies, those richest company like insurance company, financial company, and the law firm, and etc. They are the first group of companies, first group of tenants to choose these health attributes. But eventually, in the long run, maybe the pricing of the market about the health attributes will reach equilibrium after the reshuffle between these two groups of tenants. There is the tenants believe in the health effects, and those tenants maybe cannot afford the health effects. Maybe they are the smaller companies or middle-sized companies. The cost is more for them to concern instead of the indoor environmental quality. So the pricing of these health attributes is gonna be shaped by the power of the two sides. There is those who believe in the health attributes and who those who didn't.
Who asked?
You may briefly conclude your response.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I think for us researchers, maybe we need to be more rigorous in the inferring the conclusion about the premiums from the health attribute and etc. So we need to take into consideration about the market, the tenant constitution, and etc. when we try to interpret the results. Thank you very much,
Very well,
Prorector.
thank you.
Thank you. Minyi Hu, the time appointed for defending your thesis has passed, and the degree committee will now withdraw to discuss the quality of your thesis and the quality of your defense. And I request that you and your company await the results of our deliberations and our return.
Prorector, you're muted.
It's always surprising that one forgets that one is muted. Minyi Hu, welcome to see you back. The degree committee here present online has assessed the quality of your thesis and the quality of your defense. And in view of its positive verdict and taking into account your previous qualifications, the degree committee has decided to grant you the degree of doctor. Professor Kok is authorized to confer upon you this academic distinction in accordance with Dutch university custom. And I invite your supervisor to now take the floor.
Thank you, Professor Foppen. Dear Minyi, do you promise to work? Do you promise to work in accordance with the principles of scientific integrity at all times? To be careful and honest, transparent, independent, and responsible?
Yes, I promise.
That's great. By the authority vested in us by law and in conformity with the decision of the committee here present online, I hereby confer upon you, Minyi Hu, the degree of doctor and grant you all the rights attached by custom and law. As evidence of this, you'll soon receive the degree certificate signed by the rector, the secretary, and the supervisor, affixed with the official seal of the university, as now shown by the beadle.
Yes, thank you very much.
Great, congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
And I'll now continue with the laudatio. So once more, dear Minyi, your family who we can't see, but hopefully is online, your friends and colleagues who, don't know whether you know it, but they are together sitting in a room here at the university and have been watching your live stream, biting their nails, but seeing a fantastic performance, Minyi. So we're really proud, Juan and I, not just to have your great dissertation here, but also to see a defense which we think went really well, which the committee thinks went really well. And Minyi, it's only 4 years ago that you arrived in Maastricht, and it's quite rare, I would say, to see somebody not just complete, but also defend a dissertation in exactly 4 years. So I just wanted to mention that. And when you arrived, it was end of September. We right away had our finance department weekend in the Ardennes, our biannual department weekend. So you came in almost like straight from the plane, and the first activity we had in mind was a kayak trip. So, well, you joined, notwithstanding jet lag, and with like 30, 40 colleagues, you know, we ran to the boats, jumped in, and, you know, probably Juan was already out of sight. By that time, you had gone into your kayak, I'd gone into my kayak, and I left and I looked behind me and I saw Minyi going the wrong way, kind of upstream. And then she turned around and it was like zigzag, a little bit forward, zigzag, twisting and turning. You know how that works with kayaking if you've never done it before. So we were all a little worried that Minyi would actually get to the finish. But hey, you got to the finish. And by the way, you weren't even last. That honor went to Roger Otte, who was struggling apparently even more. And I think when you think about like a period that you work together, you go back like, oh, what did we all do? And to some extent, that first kayak moment, you know, was symbolic, certainly for the beginning of your PhD, and I think for the PhD trajectory more broadly, not just for you. You take 2 steps forward, you know, and 1 back, and sometimes you take 1 forward and you go 2 back. Because you came here, you know, armed with Chinese work ethos, ready to crunch some data, you know, bring it on. And we said, Minyi, slow down. Let's first read literature. Let's come up with an analysis plan. And by the way, we don't even have the data yet. So we saw the panic in your eyes. It's like, hey, I'm here to work, right? Come on, 24/7. We said, Minyi, relax. So, well, relax. We said that many times, and every time after the weekend, you know, we kind of check in with the group, and we said, oh, what did you do? Well, you know, I worked. So, okay. And then did you go out? I went kind of outside for some shoppings and then went back to work. I said, oh, Minyi, no hiking? No, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. Now, on this call, we have Professor Eichholz, the chair of your committee, and he once famously said, he probably more than once famously said, I have never worked, any day on the weekend, and, only very rarely, never probably is not true, but very rarely do I work on the weekend. Oh, sorry, on the evening. And I think looking at you, the opposite would probably be true. Very rarely would you not work on the weekend. Very rarely would you not work in the evening. So I think it was a little bit of a struggle to keep you, at a level where it wasn't just like full on, trying to work, but also relax a little bit. But I think you've grown tremendously also from that perspective. And you learned that the mind needs to wander. And wandering you did. And that was just great to observe. And it's important because I think a PhD is not just about delivering a dissertation. It's also growing as a person. You went to Paris. You recently went to Eastern Europe. You went to many other places. And you often did that alone. And the first time you said, I go to Paris, I go alone. I'm like, wow, that's quite adventurous. Because to some extent, you weren't really like the world traveler when you came here. But you went to all these places, you learned a lot, and you learned that the mind just needs to wander to ultimately do academic research. Now, you also went to Cambridge, Barcelona, actually with Dr. Nu here on the call. You went to Colombia in advance of a conference in Curacao organized by your colleague, Alexander Carlo. So those travels brought new impressions, adventures, and they also showed you the value of the team. Always ready when things weren't exactly going as planned. For example, when we were in Curacao, and it turned out that your colleague Philibert Wening made a little mistake in the booking, and the flight that you expected to leave on Saturday wasn't going to leave until Wednesday. But your flight from Amsterdam to China for the job market was actually leaving on Monday. So you had to get back. So again, the panic came back, but we resolved it collectively. You took off, a day later, you went to the job market, and you didn't disappoint us there, right? Because you got a great job. Now, travels and conferences sparked many new ideas, a way to let your thoughts mature, but also a way to make lots of academic friends. And again, on this call, for example, Professor Furst and Professor Devine, you've met them before at all these conferences. They've given you great comments. So you learned a lot also academically from going there. So that's kind of the personal growth. And your PhD came together actually quite nicely. 3 solid papers, and you've presented them, I think, quite beautifully. One thing that's also important is that you worked closely together with industry for some of these papers. And that's not a given for somebody who writes a PhD, right? You could do that, in your office, in the ivory tower, if you will. But I do want to say that you collaborated closely with your data providers like Kingsley Grace Hill. You presented the research to them and to many of the others, to Delos, where you actually had weekly, monthly calls where at some point Juan and I wouldn't even join. You handed that yourself. And I think that's a great asset because, research doesn't just happen in a room like this. It happens in collaboration with the industry. And I think all chapters really have some practical relevance. And then your last paper is single authored. And I also wanted to call that out because I think that's a great achievement. It was your idea. It was your execution. It was your writing. And the only thing we had to do was give you a little mentorship and some nudges here and there. And then, as a PhD advisor, it's time to let go. It's time to let Minji, your not just your student, but maybe also a bit of your academic child go. And actually you go to Tsinghua, which is fantastic, best university, we think, in China. And we think that's going to be the start of or the continuation, I should say, of a great academic career. So let me end with one more memory. Juan and I, and actually Pete and the rest of the team, Dirk here, we really like to go on hikes. And when we go on hikes, we gotta wear boots like this. And as you can see, this is my hiking boot. The mud is still on. Now, on one of our first hikes with Minji, we did announce that we were going to go on a walk. She arrived in those nice flat shoes with slick soles in the Limburg mud. And on the hills, you can kind of see how that goes. Like the kayak, you kind of slid backwards a lot. Eventually, you made it, but it was a very long trek. Now, that's again almost 4 years ago. And I think not just practically, but also symbolically, you're much better prepared for the road ahead. You got a backpack full of academic tools. You got a sharpened mind. You got lots of curiosity and inspiration over the years. The only thing that you really still need, Minji, are proper boots, proper hiking boots. Because we do hope that also when you have some spare time, you take some spare time on the weekend, that you go for beautiful hikes in the area where you are right now. We hope to see you there one day. So our gift to you, and it will come to you one way or the other, is a good pair of hiking boots, so you can climb the roads and the hills ahead, both figuratively but also literally. Yeah. Congratulations to you, friends, family, and we hope to celebrate. Yeah, we celebrate here, but you celebrate over there as well with this well-deserved doctor title.
I think maybe I will watch the record video together with my parents and my family. I think they will be very proud to watch my growth and my defense. And I want to thank Dr. Professor Niels Kok and also Dr. Juan Palacios for the 4 amazing years for your supervision. Teach me how to be not only an academic person, but how to be like living in European way, like to enjoy life, enjoy work. Just when you are doing something, just get full in. I really like the attitude. I really like the growth I experienced during the 4 years. Thank you very much.
Great.
Wonderful. Dear Dr. Hu, also on behalf of Maastricht University, I congratulate you, your family, and your friends with the degree you have acquired. I would like to thank the members of the degree committee who have enjoyed and who contributed to your success today. And I would like to give them an opportunity to congratulate you too. And immediately after their congratulations, I declare the ceremony ended. So the floor goes to the members of the degree committee.
Yeah, can I start again, Will?
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
Yes. Well, Minyi, I want to, give you my wholehearted congratulations. I've seen you grow, like Niels said. I still remember that hike 4 years ago, and then I thought, oh gee, but you've grown tremendously. I think both as a person and as an academic, and I think it's very, very impressive to see. And also, of course, very impressive where you are now. So I think we're going to meet each other very often throughout your career, because it's going to be stellar. I have no doubt. So congratulations, very well done.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Fine.
Also, congratulations from me. I am in particular always happy to see strong-minded and applied young women who join our field. Dr. New is another one of them, and we need more and more in those rooms. So congratulations, and I look forward to seeing you at all the conferences well into the future.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Avis Devine.
Let's move to Dr. New.
Congratulations, Mei. I think now I can see Dr. Hu after 4 years or even more years of hard work. And I totally agree with what Neil said. Before you, I thought I was hardworking until I saw how hard you worked, but also how great you did in your work. So hard work and also smart work. But congratulations. We've spent a lot of very nice time in Maastricht together previously. I hope we can have more either research overlap or just more interactions in the future. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Dr. New.
Dr. Chow.
Yes, also congratulations from me. Very well done. And I can still remember the time when I was processing your CSC application a bit more than 4 years ago. I think you're growing very well, and I hope that you will make a lot of interesting and very innovative research in the future, and I think you are in a very impressive position right now. So hopefully a lot of success.
Then I move
Thank
to
you
Professor
very much,
First.
Dr. Jim.
Professor First.
Congratulations again, Dr. Hu. Very well done. And yeah, just echoing what everyone else said. But and on top of that, as you know, this topic that you chose for your PhD research is very near and dear to my heart. So I would encourage you to stay on it. Obviously, as a researcher, the world's your oyster. You can pick whatever topic you set your mind to, but I would be very happy to see you at conferences or other forums of engagement and having stimulating discussions. So well done and congratulations, and enjoy your success.
Thank you very much, Professor First.
Dr. Post.
Congratulations, Dr. Hu. A wonderful thesis, excellent defense. I'm super happy. I hope you're too. Thank you very much. Wonderful.
So thank you very much, Dr. Post.
Professor Moinen.
Okay, Dr. Hu, I will still call you Minyi if you don't mind, because I think that's more personal, but the title is more than well deserved. And like I said before, in closed doors, I think you have been on a great trajectory, and I think you have grown a lot. So keep up the good work, and I look forward to our next meetings.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Brunnen.
Before closing this session, I'd like to congratulate the supervisors too, because it's also their achievement and their contribution to your work and your development. And I'd like to thank the Beadle for making sure that everything went well, and have a successful career. I think things are sealed in a way in which that's only guaranteed. Hereby, I declare the ceremony to be ended.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you
you very
all.
much, Director.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yes, thank
Bye,
you.
Minyi.
Bye-bye.
Have fun today.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Dr. Hu, can you still hear me?
Yes.
On behalf of the PhD office and the technical support, of course, our warm-hearted congratulations. You did really